You don't have the smartphone. They have a speaker of some sort. They're using it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's way too close now. It's hard.
It doesn't look Say it again? The only thing I can think of do you want me to go to WhatsApp and then go to click your link? I'm saying the only thing you can do if you want to run this, put it in front of running. Where's the camera?
Right there, the phone. It takes like 10 to 15 seconds.
See my hand soon, right?
Actually, I think it's pretty cool.
Where's my hand? Oh, there it is. 30 seconds? You do a different color? Okay, thank you.
Do you want to help him put up the other ones? Do you want to help him? Not put them all around his mouth.
I'm expecting you to give me a
So keep using. No. When I came in, I was speaking about it. So keep using it until you see yours. If you did not see it, you see yours.
Bismillah, assalamu alaikum. Can everyone hear me? So before we start, inshallah, the program officially, let's start off with some slogans, inshallah, okay? And if you have signs, you want to stand around on the side. Those are the best places for you if you have signs, so the people in the street can see you, inshallah. Alright? So we'll start off with Free, Free Palestine, okay? So I'll say it, you can repeat after me. Free, Free Palestine! 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 From the land to the sea! From the land to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Free, Free Palestine! 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 From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! Barakallahu feekum. Again, if you have signs, we of course are here, alhamdulillah, on the same page. The people on the street might not be. So face the signs to the street. If you want to stand close to the sidewalk. And just a reminder, we need to be inside this space as much as possible, right? The more we branch out, the more issue we may cause. So inshallah, stand from the edge and hold your signs up. Jazakumullah khair. We'll keep going, inshallah. Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! Free, Free Palestine! 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 Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Free, Free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine must be free! Palestine must be free! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Just a reminder, before you guys leave and throughout the rally, inshallah, there is a table out back where we're collecting signatures. So please, please don't leave without signing that. It's very important. And there is one to my right and one petition, yes, and one in front of me, inshallah. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله محمد محمد رسول الله. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Long live Palestine. Long live Palestine. Long live Palestine. Long live Palestine. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine must be free. Palestine must be free. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine must be free. Palestine must be free. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. Muhammadur Rasulullah. Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Alright, assalamu alaikum everyone. Some housekeeping, please. Make sure that you do keep your distance. We're not sure who's vaccinated or who's not vaccinated. Try to keep your masks on. And as he was mentioned before, please keep off of the streets. It's to maintain, this protest going, because we might get it canceled if we get on the streets. As it was mentioned, we have a table back there. We have a table to the side. I have to be specific here. We have a list of speakers. I do apologize ahead of time. If you're not on the list, I cannot hand you the mic. If you want to speak, you have to see one of the organizers, but I cannot hand over the mic. Inshallah, we'll start with the Quran recitation by Imam Yasin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تحسبن الله غافلا عما يعمل الظالمون إنما يؤخرهم ليوم تشخص فيه الأبصار مهطعين مقنعي رؤوسهم لا يرتد إليهم طرفهم وأفئدتهم هواء وأنذر الناس يوم يأتيهم العذاب فيقول الذين ظلموا ربنا أخرنا إلى أجل قريب نجب دعوتك ونتبع الرسل أولم تكونوا أقسمتم من قبل ما لكم من زوال وسكنتم في مساكن الذين ظلموا أنفسهم وتبين لكم كيف فعلنا بهم وضربنا لكم الأمثال وقد مكروا مكرهم وعند الله مكرهم وإن كان مكرهم لتزول منه الجبال فلا تحسبن الله مخلف وعده رسله إن الله عزيز ذو انتقام صدق الله العظيم.
So alhamdulillah, we have more people coming. If you could please just try to move up so we can have more room for other people. So if you could just move up a little bit, we have more space back there. So between every other speaker, we might be chanting, so just let's try to repeat as much as we can. Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry. Palestine will never die. Israel, don't you deny. Palestine, you occupy. Israel, don't deny. of a crime. Our next speaker is Imam Jafar from Masjid Al-Hidaya.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you all. Please, I'm here only for 2 or 3 minutes, but I really would like your attention, your deep attention. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In the name of God, the most merciful and the most kind, peace and blessings among all his messengers, and the last messenger, Muhammad, peace be upon them all. I have few points. Point number 1, we are all over here Muslims and non-Muslims. We are all over here for one thing, and that one thing is peace. Peace in the entire world, but today particularly peace in Palestine. Today we would like the whole world to know that we Muslims, our name is peace. We are worshipping Allah, whose name is peace. And we are extending our hands to the lovers of peace. And I see in front of me over here, Jewish Voice for Peace. And there are many Christians and non-Christians who are with us today over here, and they are all for peace. So that is my first point. Point number 1. Point number 2. Since we heard of the violations that happened this last Ramadan in Al-Quds, Jerusalem, in Al-Aqsa, and in many places in the Holy Land, Muslims world over and non-Muslims as well felt hurt, and many of them, they were in deep prayers. They were praying very hard, especially during the month of Ramadan, that Allah will bring peace. And it looks like finally, since yesterday or last night, we have heard the news that peace came back and the ceasefire is taking place. Now I would like to emphasize the importance of prayer. We are people of faith, and we are people who pray, and we are praying that God will listen to our prayer and listen to the prayers of all of you. And that's why there is peace going on now. That is my second point. We have no other agenda except peace. Everybody who is here who has a different agenda, please find some other place. We are only here for one agenda, is to get peace to be established in the whole world. But today we would like to emphasize that peace will be established in the Holy Land. My next point, today and now and all the time, we would like to keep praying for peace. The fact that peace came back, it doesn't mean it's going to last. We would like to pray and to keep praying for peace to last in the Holy Land. We are today, my dear brothers and sisters, in a very special time. And I'm talking about time. Today is Friday. Today is Friday, and this time between the late afternoon and the sunset is a special time for Muslims. We believe as Muslims, supplications and prayers during this time is accepted. Allah listens to all our prayers all the time, but Allah specified certain times that are more beloved to Him. And this is one of them. During the day of Friday and after the Asr prayer, this is a special time for supplication. So I'm requesting all of you, first, you have to be silent for 30 seconds. I would like all of us to be silent for 30 seconds. I would like all of us to summon our spiritual energy. To summon our spiritual energy. To connect with our Lord, the source of peace. To connect with our Creator, with Allah, with God. And be in deep supplication with Him. For 30 seconds, please everyone be quiet. 30 seconds. And please be so sincere in that prayer for Allah to give the world peace. To give peace to the Holy Land. And to give peace that will last. Start right now. My next point, Ameen. Ameen. We ask Allah to accept it. And my next point, my dear brothers and sisters, my next point, my dear brothers and sisters, is the following. As you came today and you came from different places, and you came over here and there is something in your heart, and that is you would like to pray for peace. I would like you, my dear brothers and sisters, that your behavior must reflect peace. That whatever you are going to say, if you are a speaker, your speech must reflect peace. That your relationships with all the people who are here and your attitude should be an attitude and a feeling that should reflect peace. So peace to us is not a lip service. Peace to us is something in our deep heart. And we would like to make sure that, as we say in Arabic, فاقد الشيء لا يعطيه. Someone who does not have something cannot give of it. We must have peace ourselves to be able to share it with others. My last point, my dear brothers and sisters. The world is able to bring peace if we want to. You know, for more than 1 year, we are in a very special circumstances. We are all fighting a virus. And the world put all their resources together to be able to find the cure. And if we are really sincere and put our resources together, we will be able to find peace. And all of us together, we will be able to find peace. However, peace needs a partner. Peace needs a partner. Peace cannot work by itself. It needs a partner. So what is the partner of peace? The partner of peace is justice. Without justice, there will be no peace. And without peace, there will be no justice. So let's keep that in mind. I will give you this story, and I will end with it. The governor or the Khalifa, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, was a great one. Just not too many years after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and during his time, there was a great justice being done in the entire Muslim land. One of his governors came to him and said, send me money so I will be able to fortify my city against those who are rebels who want to destroy the city. And Umar ibn Abdul Aziz sent him back a letter, and listen to what he said in his letter. He said, حصنها بالعدل, fortify your city with justice. You don't need any walls. And that's exactly what we believe, my dear brothers and sisters. We would like that there is justice. When there is justice, there will be peace. So all of us today, we are all working hard to make sure that there will be peace and there will be justice. And I finally say, may Allah shower all of us with peace. May Allah shower all our societies with peace. May Allah shower the Holy Land, Palestine, Al-Quds. And may Allah bring the conflict, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, to bring it to a resolution peacefully. Ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Our next speaker is Imam Patel from ICCD.
No, it's fine. Respected brothers and sisters, the betrayal of the first Qibla will carry a heavy price in both worlds. Villains and those people who are oppressing, they are looked at as heroes. We want the illegal occupation to end. This is the long and short of it. Very simple. That we want the illegal occupation to end. We want the properties to be restored to the Palestinians. We want this vile colonization to end. Boycott. What can we do as Muslims? Boycott Israeli goods. Corporate boycotts of Israeli technology, because an apartheid state is never willingly going to change. Outside measures are the only option to push Israel towards ending this illegal occupation. We want our tax dollars to stop funding Israeli military. Gaza has been under siege for decades, and Aqsa and Palestinian land have been appropriated systematically by the apartheid state of Israel. Make dua. This is what we can do. Make dua. Today is a blessed day. The time between Asr and Maghrib, this is a blessed time. Make as much dua as possible. Support the Palestinian cause. Support Aqsa. Support the people of Gaza with whatever we can afford. Whatever we can afford. Send monetary help to this region. Even before the attacks on Gaza and Aqsa, there were forced evictions in Sheikh Jarrah. Ethnic cleansing. This is part of this apartheid state. The fact that Gaza has 2 million residents who are refugees from their homes in Palestine. This is a fact. These are all facts that can be looked up. At least 2 million residents of Gaza, they have been displaced from the region of Palestine, from the region of Quds. How would we feel? How would we feel if someone walked into our home and just took it? Would we not fight back? Would we not fight back? Would we not defend our home? This is what the Palestinians on a daily basis have to deal with. Whoever justifies this type of behavior is morally bankrupt. Wallahi, that person is morally bankrupt. These people have committed hundreds of war crimes. The least we can do is support them. Show solidarity, make dua for them as much as possible. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all understanding. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
As we mentioned earlier, we have more people in the back. If you could please move up. If you could help us move up, we have more people coming. Please keep your masks on, especially if you're not vaccinated. Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Our next guest speaker is Reverend Peter Cook. My name is Reverend Peter Cook. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Council of Churches. We represent 7,000 congregations around the state of New York, and we're closely affiliated with the National Council of Churches, which has been on record for a long time to try to end the occupation. Give thanks today that there is a ceasefire between Palestine and Israel. This war, however, was unnecessary because 112 Palestinians died, including 60 children, and 12 Israelis died as well. This is not the first ceasefire since these wars seem to occur every couple of years. It is a surety that it is only a matter of time before we see another war and a resulting loss of life. We can never bomb our way to a permanent peace. It is possible to find a political solution so neither side feels that they have to defend themselves. But there will be no political solution until we address 5 basic injustices which cause instability in the region. Number 1, Israel has taken far too much land and property from the Palestinians. Much of this land did not belong to them. And as long as there's no redress for this land grab, this occupation, the Palestinians will do what anyone would do, what you would do, what I would do, resist. It would not be realistic for Israel to give back all the land. No one ever suggested that, because Israel has a right to exist. But there needs to be enough land to make a two-state solution viable again. Number 2, Israel within their borders, after they give back the land they took, needs to give everyone the same rights in a democracy and accord each person full citizenship regardless of religion or ethnicity. It may be that Israel will have its dominant population be Jewish, but for those who are not Jewish within Israel's borders, they need to have the same rights. Without full rights for all residents, Israel cannot claim to be a democracy and will always be unstable. 3, Israel can no longer employ the practice of administrative detention. My family knows well the Faraj family in Palestine. My son went to college with Basil Faraj's father, who has spent more time in Israeli administrative detention than any other Palestinian. On the rare occasion when Mr. Faraj is released, it's not long before the Israelis bash down the doors to his home and take him away to jail in the middle of the night. I can picture his home in Ramallah because I've been in that home. We also have to end the brutal practice of child detention. Number 4, Israelis have a duty to rebuild what was destroyed in Gaza, and then they need to lift every sanction to ensure that Gaza is economically viable again. And finally, we need to ensure that there is room for Muslims, Christians, and Jews to be able to practice their faith in the holy city without fear of violence. It is no longer acceptable for us to talk about the symptom of violence and pathologically avoid discussing the root cause of that violence. Human rights violations, land grabs, occupation, and democracy for some, but not all, and incarceration. Those are the root causes of this violence. A lasting peace is possible where Palestinians and Israelis can dwell on the land and be sovereign nations with sufficient resources. But we need some courage to not let the old hatreds so wound our imaginations that we cannot visualize and work towards a brighter future. As they say, there cannot be lasting peace without justice. With no justice, there is no peace. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Israel, don't deny! Israel, don't deny! Palestine, you occupy! Palestine, you occupy! Israel, don't deny! Israel, don't deny! Palestine, you occupy! Palestine, you occupy! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Our next speaker is Fatima.
I'm gonna start with reading I would like you to take a moment of silence because I'm gonna read some of the kids' names that were murdered. Yazan al-Masri, 2 years. Ibrahim al-Masri, 11 years. Marwan al-Masri, 7 years. Rahaf al-Masri, 10 years. Ibrahim Hassanin, 16 years. Hussein Hamad, 11 years. Yahya Khalifa, 14 years. Lina Sharir, 16 years. Bara al-Qarabli, 16 years. Hamza Ali, 12 years. Hana Rifi, 14 years. Zaid al-Talibani, 5 years. Hamad Sliman, 16 years. Hamad al-Amur, 13 years. These names I just read to you are not just numbers. They are people. People with stories and futures. I cannot read all the names because of time limit, but I'm asking you to go home and read them. Look at their pictures and look at some of their stories. That's the least you can do to honor them. I have lived through the previous 3 aggressions on Gaza, and I'm telling you for a fact that the worst feeling is to die unnoticed. When I was there, scared to die any minute. I was scared to die with injustice brought to me, and my story not being told. I will tell you a couple of their stories. Rahaf had just come back with her mom from shopping for Eid clothes, and joined her brothers Ibrahim, Marwan, and Yazan to play. They all got bombed and died. That was on the first day of the aggression, on Monday. I talked to my friend who's currently in NYC, and he told me these were his friend's kids. I found out 2 days ago that his cousin, who he spoke to for 2 hours, only a day before that call, only the day before he was killed, he told me he had opened a shop and he said his business is going well. He was waiting to get married in 2 months after Eid. Now he's murdered. We are human beings who are not worthless. When Israel has an attack every few years, murders, injures, and traumatizes us, it always ends up with a ceasefire and no accountability. The world has failed us many times. Yesterday, it proved to us once again that Israel can attack and destroy Gaza whenever they want with U.S. tax dollars, and nothing will happen to them. Today, they shot at least 15 worshippers in Al-Aqsa, and a settler in Hebron stabbed a Palestinian worker 25 times at his workplace. I don't want to be long. I just want to thank you for organizing and coming here. But I want to tell you that it needs to be a continuous work. The pressure on the government needs to continue, as well as spreading awareness. Do not wait to see a picture of a baby in order to stand, to boycott Israel, and to amplify our voices. I know this work isn't easy. I know you all are drained. It hasn't been easy for me with my college or with my peers. While I was seeing my people being genocidally killed on TV, on live TV, and buildings being wiped down, my downtown, where I took my SET, where I applied to come to college here, all gone. I still found it in myself to speak up, organize, and start uncomfortable conversations. While I was doing that, I was also checking my phone continuously, hoping for my family's names not to appear on the news, since my mom, dad, siblings, and everyone is still there. And let me tell you, once I saw my dad's first name, it said, Betrayer Dr. Marine. I broke down, and my brain in that point could not even read the last name to check if it's Sha'at, my dad, or not. I thought it was my father who died. And up until I got in contact with him, I had a breakdown. I couldn't do it anymore. Thankfully and luckily, it wasn't my own father, but it was someone's father. When I called my dad, he told me that Dr. Ayman Abul Rauf, his colleague, was murdered with his wife and kids. My dad told me the last time he spoke to him during this aggression, he told him that his wife was giving some sort of mental support talks to people. And because my dad stands for justice first, justice and liberation first, and because he's a Palestinian from Gaza second, he still went to the hospital for 24-hour shifts every time he was asked to, even though it was extremely risky, even though I never knew if he will come back alive. He still went. Every time he needed to for the past 22 years. Our house was demolished once completely, and the second time it was partially demolished. You know what? Every time we had a determination to build it better, to build it even more beautiful. And that's the determination I want you to have. That's the spirit I want you to have. Look at people in Gaza. Whoever I was speaking to, they've been telling me death is more merciful in this point. They told me if we're physically alive right now, we're mentally dead. They're still existing. Now they're rebuilding it already. They're gonna take their exams, they're gonna go to colleges, they're gonna do their work. Their existence is resistance. And the least you can do here, continue it. One process, two process is not gonna do it. You need to continue your work. Lastly, I want to say that Palestine should not be just your charity project. Palestine should be your liberation project. And you should not stop, we should not stop until Palestine and every oppressed person and nation are liberated. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Our next speaker is Dr. Obey.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings of peace. After I listened to my daughter, the daughter of Palestine, I lost all train of thoughts. Why we are here? Just look around and look at these beautiful angelic faces of the children that you are holding their hands and their fingers, and then you will know why you are here and why your presence here will matter. You are standing in a very powerful place, the capital of the most important state of the most important country in the world, and from here Israel derives its strength and its source of operation. So what you do here matters. That is why I would like to congratulate you for coming here. I don't want to talk about the present as much, because the present sometimes overwhelms you, sometimes it stifles your hope, sometimes it seems that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. So I would like you to come with me towards the past. This land, there were people who came from outside. They said that it is their manifest destiny, that it is their God-given right to cleanse the land, and they did terrible things to the Native Americans. America has a checkered past, but there is something great about America, that America introspects and America acknowledges its mistakes. It so happens that sometimes for some people it is too late. For Native Americans it took centuries before our school children have thought that their resistance was glorious, that their standing up to the invasion of the land was right and just, that what was done to them was wrong. Similarly, something bad happened to the Africans. Millions of them were snatched from the continent and brought here, and it was done in the name of God and God-given rights. And it took centuries for America to acknowledge its mistake. It took centuries for America to write in its school books that what was done to the Africans, the slavery, was an evil deed. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Unfortunately, we see that with the Jim Crow laws too. There were terrible people here like Andrew Jackson, but at the same time, when we look back, we see people like Abraham Lincoln. We see people like Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. That's why I wanted to look back, so that when you look to the future, you have hope. That for too long, Palestinians were not only oppressed, but to justify their oppression, they were demonized, just as the Native Americans were demonized, just as the African Americans were demonized. The victims were called murderers and terrorists. The glorious resistance to defend their homes and their families and their children was called terrorism by some in America who are in power. But let these cowards, whether they be the Bushes or the Obamas or the Bidens or the Trumps, let them go back and read the history, and they will know that they will be in the dustbin of history, just as those who killed Native Americans, those who enslaved African Americans, those who enacted Jim Crow laws are in the dustbin of history. Their descendants cannot proudly wave the Confederate flags anymore. So those who support Israel and its operation, let it be known to you, just by looking at the history of the world and history of America, that the future belongs to Palestinians, that the future belongs to the children of Gaza and West Bank, that the future belongs to the children of Haifa, of you act here, if you reach out to your colleagues and your neighbors, and if you build public opinion, that lifeline to operation, that lifeline to genocide, that lifeline to apartheid can be cut. And Palestine will be free. And we will be freeing the Jewish children of America from the legacy that is being bestowed upon them, of which they cannot be proud in the future. And they will thank us, just as many whites in the South thank African Americans for launching the civil rights movement. So do not be afraid, do not be ashamed, do not feel shy, for your cause is just. You will have to fight the lies such as Palestinians always rejected peace process in Camp David, they say. They were offered terms, and Arafat was right to reject it. What we are not taught that a few months later in Kaaba, the deal was reached and it was Ehud Barak who rejected it. It is not a lie that a land without people was given to a people without land. That is a lie. There were people who were living in Palestine for thousands of years. It is a lie. So know all these lies and do not be afraid to talk about these lies and expose them to your colleagues, to your neighbors, and then organize in a very wide-based and multi-ethnic and multi-religious movement to throw away this occupation. It will not last long. This is 70 years ago that Palestine was free, and then another less than 30 years we will know that it is, because look at America. Look at the college campuses. Young Jewish children are leading the BDS movement. White Americans are joining us, not just African Americans and Hispanics, not just brown people. So the future belongs to us. So if we are resolute enough, if we are courageous enough, if we are conscientious enough, then that future will come a little faster. If we can expedite it a little, to make sure that Palestine is free. I will end up by just raising some slogans. I will be very specific. Biden, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Biden, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Bibi, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Donald, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Saudi, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. UAE, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Modi, you shall see. Palestine will soon be free. Our children will come to the rallies to celebrate freedom and peace in Middle East. They will not be protesting if we continue to march forward. So I thank you once again, and I ask you that let this not be the last rally. Let us not be fooled by this ceasefire, because every few years Israel tries to bring misery to Gaza, kill less people and injure more, so that it wants to break that people, that brave and courageous people, which they refuse to do that. So we have to make sure that there is no next round. Already Beit al-Maqdis has been attacked again after the ceasefire. So keep your eyes open and fight for Palestinians and fight for all who are being oppressed, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. The genocide in Congo has gone for too long. The genocide in Burma, the genocide that's happening in China, the Indian Muslims, 200 million who are marked for genocide, and the Hindutva lobby, which is the fastest growing Islamophobic lobby in the US. We will have to fight all them along with our white allies and our brown allies and our black allies, our Christian allies, our Jewish allies. We will all get together in the name of humanity and fight operation injustice everywhere. Thank you so very much.
Assalamualaikum everyone. I would request the people in the back behind the statue, please go to the front. We are blocking the pathway. I would request people in the back behind the statue, please go to the front. We don't want to block the pathway here. And the second announcement that we have plenty of water behind in the truck. Please get water if you need to get some water. It's available behind, right where you see the flag. Assalamu alaikum. Listen, if you have signs, alhamdulillah, we all here know the message. I advise you to go to the front if you have
signs and pointing it to the people that don't know what we're here for. Alright? That's just an advice. You don't have to go. Again, as he mentioned, those behind us, you would be more impactful up there in the front. Alright? Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Muhammadur Rasulullah! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Jazakumullah khair.
Thank you. Our next guest speaker is Rabbi Joseph Cohen.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting us to speaking by this important event. And I pray to the Almighty, to the Star family, His good wisdom to be able to bring peace to the world, inshallah. We have just watched and listened to the tragic stories of what happened in Gaza. We of the Jewish faith are here with a message of solidarity. We stand with the people of Gaza. We stand with the people of Palestine. This massacre that Israel has committed against the people of Gaza is in violation of Jewish law. The state of Israel was responsible for sparking this war with their unjust decision to evict Palestinians from Sheikh Jarrah and by storming the Al-Aqsa. Israel's hypocrisy was on display when they ruled that Israeli landowners still hold title to their land that they owned before 1948, while millions of Palestinians are still in refugee camps, unable to return and claim their own private land, from which they were expelled in 1948. This war was a reminder that this conflict, created by the Zionists, did not start now, or 10 years ago, or even in 1967. And it's not only the extremist settler movement who are the problem. The entire creation of the state of Israel, accompanied by the expulsion of the Palestinians, was a crime whose effects continue to be felt to this day. And that's why, although we are all relieved that there has been a ceasefire and the killing has stopped, still, the victims of this war are not coming back to life, unfortunately. Their families will miss them forever. And many of the wounded who remain maimed, and thousands of residents of destroyed buildings are left homeless. And the same applies to the thousands of victims of the past Zionist conflicts of the past 73 years, as long as the occupation goes on. We condemn the Zionist states for their criminal actions, and their crimes is compounded by the fact that they falsely claim to be a Jewish state, acting in the name of the Jewish people and the name of the Jewish religion. In truth, the Torah forbids the Jewish people to create their own sovereign state since the destruction of the temple. And certainly, creating the state through the occupation of Palestine, through the occupation of another people's land, makes the crime and rebellion against the Almighty worse. They quote the Torah to justify their actions when in fact, the Torah is completely completely opposed to everything they do. Before Zionism, before the creation of the State of Israel, Jews in Palestine and in all Muslim countries used to live side by side with their Muslim neighbors without any human rights organizations to protect us because it was not necessary. We live side by side with our Muslim neighbors in the same courtyard. We babysit each other's children. Jews live by their tradition and their Torah teachings that we are in exile by divine decree and we must live humbly in exile, being loyal citizens to the countries in which we live. So we call on the end of the siege of Gaza and end to the occupation of Palestine in its entirety. Let Palestine be free from the river to the sea. And I pray to the Almighty for the peaceful dismantlement of this impediment to peace called the Zionist State of Israel. And we hope that the time of us, we will also again be able to live in peace and harmony with all the people in Palestine, in a free Palestine, inshallah. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
If you could please have your signs facing the other side so people can actually see them. Not all of us have to do that, but those, especially if you're on the edge, please have them face the streets. Free, free Palestine! 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 Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Our next speaker is Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed Abu Hakma. I envisioned this speech with Maryam, my daughter, standing next to me, but she thinks she has a very important role to stand there, and I'm not going to tell her otherwise. Okay? I was born in this country, but my roots are in Palestine. My mother's side is 1 mile from Masjid al-Aqsa and 1 mile from Sheikh Jarrah. My father's side is from a small village next to Nablus. I have visited there and lived there for parts of my life. Do not be fooled by the ceasefire and the return to normal, because that has never meant anything to an apartheid regime. Do you know what normal is for a Palestinian? Before the ceasefire, I lost one cousin because Jewish illegal settlers raided the village, heavily armed, just to terrorize. And if you received a call from the mimbar of your masjid to go defend your village, what would you do? He looks just like me. That could have been me on different circumstances. And it doesn't matter if it was me or him, because his life is just as worthy as anyone here. I had cousins in Jerusalem get shot. I can't even ask them what's going on, because if they speak the truth, the Jewish authorities will abduct them and torture them. You wanted to go back to peace? We call this peace? 4 weeks ago was peace. Let me tell you what 4 weeks ago was like. 4 weeks ago was people still being afraid of being kicked out of their houses. 4 weeks ago was still not being able to find a job. I have cousins that speak 3 languages, have multiple degrees, and the best job they can get is being a taxi driver. And there is nothing wrong with that job. But if you are qualified for something else and that is your dream, who can deny you of that?
Who can deny you of that? You know what else? My grandfather and his village have lost 6,000 acres of land. But at least they have a village. My wife is from a village called Beji's. Do you want to visit it? It doesn't exist anymore. 1948, it was destroyed. And she's a refugee as a result of that. And at least she was able to leave. Other people's villages were destroyed and the people were destroyed. And one of the things they do, they make the best job you can get to be a bricklayer in an illegal Israeli settlement, and they give you a better salary than any salary you can get in Palestine. So they can humiliate you. If they don't kill you with a weapon, they kill you on the inside, that you build a house on the land that was once yours. On the land that was once yours. And do you know why they do this? Because their founding fathers said they wanted to do this. They said we must expel the Arabs and make sure they never return. Ben-Gurion said this. His senior advisor said we must reduce the Palestinian people to a people that cut wood and that are our slaves. And you're surprised that that's the best job they can get. And this is not Palestinian Muslims. This is Palestinian Christians. It's not just Palestinians. It's Ethiopian Jews who are treated like garbage by them. Because this is not even a Jewish state by their own law. The Ethiopian Jews look more like Moses physically. They resemble him more morally. And they sterilize them. They sterilize them. So we do not, in conclusion, we do not have a Zionist problem. The African Americans don't have a carceral state problem. The Mexicans don't have a border problem. The Native Americans don't have a genocide problem. Every single one of those groups has a white supremacy problem. Every single one of them. Every last one of them. And this country is exporting it to a tune of $4 billion a year. If they wanted, the occupation would not sustain more than 1 month if they cut off funding. It would not. And you know full well, and I will conclude with the words of Nelson Mandela, who said, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestinians. Thank you, do your work, and never back down. Free, free Palestine! 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 Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! Palestine will never die! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Our next guest speaker is another Palestinian who will be sharing her story as well. Judy.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much. I'm going to be reading off the paper, but what I'm saying is what we live, what we're experiencing. I'm a Palestinian from the diaspora. I'm a twice refugee, and I'm originally from Safad, and we were expelled from Palestine in 1948. Particularly by the Israeli forces in northern Palestine, and my parents became refugees in Syria, Lebanon, and also in Jordan. So thank you so much for coming to stand for Palestine, which is our home. The Palestinian blood, which is our blood. The tears of the children that have been killed, screaming Yuma, which is mom, Yalba, which is dad. Mourning the death of our beloved ones, and for the longing of freedom for Palestine, which is our longing as well. The protest and solidarity here in Albany and all around the world shows that we might not live in Palestine, but Palestine lives within us, in us, all the time. And it makes me so proud that I am Palestinian, but some people are not even Palestinian and they're supporting Palestine because it's not something just for Palestinians. Palestine is for all of us. So the protest, it has been 73 years since Al-Nakba, specifically May 15th, which there was another protest and I was here for the Nakba Day, which is known as a catastrophe. And specifically, why is it known as a catastrophe? Because we were expelled from our land in 1948 by the Israeli forces suddenly and abruptly and deliberately, and basically in hopes that we're going to return, but we did not. The attachment and the unconditional love that I have for Palestine is through my grandmother and my great-grandma's stories. Her stories, every time she would talk about Palestine, I can see that through her sparkling eyes. I'm sure if you have Palestinian friends or Palestinian family members, they're going to tell you the same exact story, especially if they're from the 1948 land. She would always go on and say that a life of peace is all we wish for, with joy, friendship, and goodwill. Our passion for humanity and equality among all of us, Muslim, Jews, and Christian, is what allows love to grow in our hearts unhindered. And she would always say that they had hope, dreams, and resistance with every olive oil and orange tree, and which is what Palestine is known for, and in each row. But then suddenly her eyes would be full of tears, and her voice shook because she remembered the atrocities and all the pain when they were expelled out of their land. She said that suddenly everything happened in matters of seconds and minutes. The keys that we still have it in our home, Syria, and in Lebanon, and this is called the return key. They had hope that they're going to return after a couple days only, but we did not return. It's been 73 years and we did not return, but there's always hope. And my dad always says every single time that the presence of Palestinians, and with every single child on this earth who's Palestinian, the Palestinian identity would not be erased and could not be erased. So I urge you to continue educating yourself on this matter, because it's very important. The social media, the thing that we're seeing on social media, and all the Stand with Palestine support is tremendously helping. If you think that this cannot, no matter how many followers you have, if you think that this doesn't make a change, it does make a change. Keep on doing that, because even if they announce a ceasefire, but what they basically means that the things did not end. We continue to fight every single time until we get Palestine free, we get Sheikh Jarrah free, we get all the areas in 1948 free, we end apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and occupation system in Palestine. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Karen.